האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov and good evening, everyone. We're in Parsha Noach in the Zera Shimshon Os Beis, section 2 in the Zera Shimshon. In order to understand this section, we need to read one pasuk, a very famous pasuk, a well-known pasuk. It is the first pasuk in Parsha Noach, in fact, and here it is. Ele toldos Noach, these are the generations of Noach, or these are the events that happened in Noach's life. Noach ish tzadik, Noach was a righteous man. Tamim haya bidorosav, he was perfect or sincere in his generation. Es Elokim, his halech Noach, with Hashem, Noach walked. So that's the pasuk to start with, and the Zera Shimshon is going to comment right away and bring a medrash rabbah on that pasuk. Again, Os Beis, section 2. Medrash, this is the medrash Bereshis rabbah. Ele toldos Noach, that's our pasuk, and these are the generations of Noach. Noach ish tzadik, Noach was a righteous man. Tamim, he was a sincere, perfect person. Medrash comments, Kol kuf chaf shana, all of the 120 years that Noach had after Hashem commanded him to build the teva, to build the giant boat, until the mabul, until the flood actually came, was a period of 120 years. So all of that time, Hayinotea arazim, he was planting cedar trees, umekatzitzan, and cutting them down for the wood. So Noach was working very hard to plant, and he had to plant a tremendous amount of trees, obviously, and to cut down the wood and to use it to build the teva. Ve'amrin lei, and so people said to him during all of this time, Lama chadein, why are you doing this? Why are you building such a giant boat? Amar Lahoni said to them, Kach Amar More Da'alma, so said the master of the world, Dehumaisi Mabula Al Alma, that he is going to bring a flood on the world. So Noach explained to them why he was building the ship, and it was based on God's command and God's revelation to Noach that he was going to bring a flood to wipe out mankind. Amru, they said, I osi mabula, if God brings a flood, lo osi ella al besa dehai gavra, it will not affect anyone except the household of that man, meaning of Noach. So the people responded to Noach and they said, we've got nothing to worry about. The person who has something to worry about is you, because if a flood comes, you're going to be the one who drowns in the flood, and you're going to be wiped out by the flood. But we are not going to be negatively impacted by the flood. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Medrash Rabbah. So that is certainly a very interesting, unusual, and you might say mystifying excerpt from the Medrash Rabbah. What in the world were the people, the generation of that time, telling Noach when they said, you're the guy who's going to get wiped out, not us? So the Zera Shimshon continues in the next paragraph. V'hikshu hamaforshim, and the commentators ask, Dahadivorim ha'ela ein lahem shachar. These words from this excerpt in the Medrash Rabbah have no explanation. There's no way to understand them. Heach yomru devorim ke'ela. How could the people of Noach's generation say these words? Ba'asher hema yadu, when they knew she'ovru al hamitzvos v'chatu b'nafshosam, that they were violating God's commandments and were committing mortal sins. They were the ones, they knew everything that they were doing wrong, and they knew that they were the wicked people at that time. V'Noach ish tzadik haya, and they knew that Noach was a righteous person who was trying single-handedly to dedicate himself to keeping and observing Hashem's mitzvos and the way of Hashem. So how could they say, you're the one who's in trouble, we're fine, you're the one who's going to get affected by the flood? V'yesh lomar, and we can say, De'isa bezohar parsha zu, that it states in the Zohar on this parsha, on Parshas Noach, Shenoach chata, that Noach had committed a sin. Shelo hispalel al doro, that he did not pray for his generation. Levatel hagizera, to nullify the decree that Hashem made about bringing the flood. Kimoshe asa Moshe, like Moshe did. When Moshe, anytime Moshe heard from Hashem that the Jewish people had sinned and they were going to be punished, Moshe immediately davened for them. And in the ultimate example, when Hashem said, I'm going to wipe out the people at the time of the Chet HaEgel, Moshe threw himself into his davening and was able to save Bnei Yisrael. So Noach apparently did not do that. He didn't daven for the people the way that Moshe did. Umishum hachi, and because of this, nenash, Noach was punished. Shenikra hamabul al shmo, because we find in a pasuk in Yeshayahu that the mabul, the flood, is referred to using the name of Noach. Ichsiv, as the pasuk says, ki mei Noach zos li, because like the waters of Noach, this is to me. And that source is unusual and striking in the sense that the waters of the flood are called mei Noach, the waters of Noach, when certainly we would not think normally to connect the waters of the flood, the punishment of the flood that came to the world, to Noach. We wouldn't call it the Mei Noach. We might call the teva of Noach. But why refer to the flood? The flood should be connected to the wicked people in the wicked generation that lived at that time. We would think it shouldn't be connected to Noach. But in fact, Noach was punished, according to the Zohar, by having the waters of the flood referred to as the Mei Noach, the waters of Noach. Because he did not daven sufficiently, he didn't daven for the people of his generation to save them. Aval ikamanda amar nami hasam, but Zera Shimshon says it is only fair to point out that there's another opinion there about this issue of Noach not davening. Shemoshe hayulos chusavos, that Moshe Rabbeinu davened for the Jewish people every chance he got, or every time it was appropriate and necessary, because he had chusavos, he had the merit of not only righteous, extraordinarily righteous parents, but all the way back to Shevet Levi, to Levi himself, and all the way back, of course, to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So Moshe had tremendous chusavos, and that's why he was able to daven so successfully. V'Noach lo hayolo mimi, and Noach did not have anyone lilmod from whom to learn about the importance and the necessity of davening, umimi litlos, and also anyone to make his davening dependent upon. We to this day daven when we say Shmona Esrei, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. We utilize, our Chazal have formulated our tefillos to utilize the schus avos that we have to talk about our patriarchs and to use their names in our davening. Noach was not able to do that, and Noach did not learn, had no one to teach him about doing that. And so the Zera Shimshon says that we have a possible understanding, a possible explanation in the Zohar, although there seems to be a debate or two opinions in the Zohar, but at least according to the first opinion, we have a view that Noach did not daven for the people in his generation, and that was a chet, that was a sin. Now in the next paragraph, we'll see how that connects to what the Zera Shimshon has been discussing. V'im kain, and if so, yesh lomar shedoro shel Noach hayu sovrim, we can say that the people of the generation of Noach thought shenoach hayu lo lihispalel aleihem, that Noach should have been davening on them, shelo yovdu, that they should not perish, that they should not be wiped out in the flood. Ve'ata she'eno mispalel, and now that they saw that he was not davening for them, ve'adarabba, and just the opposite, oseh hateva lahagin olav, he was making the teva to protect himself and his family. When people asked him about the teva, he didn't say, I'm building a huge boat to save everyone in this generation or as many righteous people who want to join me. He said, I'm building the teva because Hashem told me to build it for myself and my family and all the animals. But it didn't appear that he was too concerned about the rest of the generation. Ro'oi hu lamus levado, and therefore they reasoned. Let me go back. Ve'eno choshiv klumim yiyuneh avadim. And Noach was not thinking at all about whether or not the people in his generation would be destroyed. Ro'oi hu lamus, and therefore they thought that it would be fitting for him to die, levado, by himself. V'chol ha'olam yiyeh nitzol, and the rest of the world would be saved. Kemoshe sholach Mordechai leEsther, as we know, the famous message that Mordechai sent to Esther, and the Zera Shimshon gives us the first few words, but we'll recite the whole pasuk, we'll read the whole pasuk from Megillas Esther. Im hacharesh tacharishi be'eis hazos. If you are silent, Mordechai said to Esther, at this time, meaning if you don't go to beseech Achashverosh to save the Jewish people, to rescind the decree against the Jewish people, Revach vehatzolo yamod la Yehudim mimakom acher. Saving and salvation will come to the Jewish people from a different place, from a different source. Ve'at uveis avich tovedu, and you and your father's household will be destroyed, will be wiped out. So we see that Mordechai said to Esther, the fact that the Jews are going to be saved, that's going to happen whether you're involved or not. But now it's your responsibility, and you need to save yourself by going to Achashverosh and davening on behalf of the Jewish people, because if you don't, the Jews will get saved, and you will be the one, and your family and your house, your father's house will be the ones who will not be saved. So Mordechai sent Esther such a powerful direct message. V'od amrinon, and we also say in a Gemara in Masechta Tainis, Bizman shahat tzibor shoroi b'tza'ar, at a time then that the congregation is suffering, al yomar adam, a person should not say, Elech levesi, I'm going to go to my house, I'm going to eat and drink and business as usual. I'm going to take care of myself and my family. V'sholem alayach nafshi, and there will be peace for me. I'll do what I need to do to take care of myself. I'm not going to concern myself with the problems of those other people, those other members of the Jewish community. V'imasa kain, and if a person does do that, if they violate this rule according to the Gemara, and they do separate themselves and are only concerned for themselves, lo yireh b'nechamas tzibor, they will not merit, and perhaps they will not survive to see the comfort and salvation that comes to the tzibor, to the congregation. So the Zera Shimshon says from both of these sources, from Megillas Esther and from Masechta Tainis, we see a very, very important and vital idea, and that is that every Jewish person, every member of the community must always be concerned about the entire community and must do whatever he or she can to help other people and to daven for them, as opposed to only being concerned about oneself and one's own well-being and one's family. We see clearly that is not acceptable according to Jewish tradition. And therefore, the Zera Shimshon says we can apply this to Noach, and we can say the people in his time said to him, according to the Medrash Rabbah that he started with, they said to him, you're the one who has to be concerned because we're going to be saved. We're going to be okay. Of course, they were mistaken, and it was a fatal mistake. But their reasoning, according to the Zera Shimshon, was they said, Noach, you're not davening for us. And the tzaddik of the generation, you are the tzaddik of the generation. You are the tzaddik yisod olam. You're the one person alive who has a direct connection and relationship with Hashem. And you're the righteous man of the generation. You should be davening for us. And because you're not davening for us, you're the one who's going to be punished. And we are not the ones who are afraid of the punishment. Continuing. Umikol shkein, and how much more so here in this case, Shehu hayochel hispalel velo hispalel. In this case, Noach certainly had plenty of time to daven. Noach had lots of time on his hand while he was building the Teva, 120 years. He had plenty of time to daven to Hashem to rescind the decree of the Mabul. V'harezeh domeh lemi, top of the next page. And this is similar to someone who is able, someone who is able to rebuke someone else, and he doesn't do so. He is caught up in the sin and punished for the sin of the other people of his city. So if a person, the Zera Shimshon is referring to a statement by Chazal that if a person lives in a city and he's in a position and he has the ability, he has the knowledge, and he has the prestige, and he has the stature, and he has the position to rebuke the people, and they would listen to him, and they would change their ways, and he could rebuke them and get them to stop doing whatever a sin or sins they're committing, and he does not do so, he refrains from doing so, shehu nitfas al b'nei iro, that he will be punished for the sins that these people are committing because it's on his head. He could have stopped them and he didn't. Again, this idea that we can never just be concerned about ourselves and our actions and ourselves and our righteousness and ourselves and our family. We must be concerned about the Jewish people as a whole and certainly the community that we live in. V'chein matzinu, and so we find in a Gemara in Masechta Makos, the Kohen Gadol, regarding the Kohen Gadol, Lefisha lohis palel al doro, since he doesn't daven on his generation, hayabisakana, he himself is put in danger. And let's pause for a moment to talk about explain what that Gemara is referring to. The Torah teaches us that when a person commits a type of accidental killing, an accidental murder, he kills someone accidentally and unintentionally, that he can be killed. He is liable to be killed by the relatives of the victim, the Goel Hadam, and it's not just singular. The different relatives of the victim can come and kill him. However, if he can successfully escape and reach an Ir Miklat, a city of refuge, then he is protected and safe in the Ir Miklat. As long as he doesn't leave the safe confines of the Ir Miklat, of the city of refuge, he will be safe and protected from the Goel Hadam, from the blood redeemers, the blood relatives of the person who he accidentally killed. But the Torah says an amazing thing. It says, how long does he have to stay in the Ir Miklat? Does he have to stay there forever till the end of his life? Can he leave after a certain amount of time? So the Torah says he must stay there until the Kohen Gadol of that time passes away. And that, of course, is what does the Kohen Gadol have to do with it? So the Gemara explains to us that if the Kohen Gadol of that time had appropriately davened for his generation and done everything to show the highest level of concern and care and teaching for the generation, then accidental murders like the one that like the case that the Torah discusses would not happen. Either it would be reduced tremendously or it wouldn't happen at all. However, if that doesn't take place and there are accidental murders, then the Kohen Gadol is, in a way, based on the ideas that the Zera Shimshon has developed, the Kohen Gadol is responsible in a sense for these accidental murders taking place. So it's only upon the Kohen Gadol's death that a kapara comes, that a forgiveness comes when the person, the Kohen Gadol, who was, again, as we said, responsible for these events in a way, dies, that the accidental murderers are allowed to leave the Ir Miklat. So the Gemara tells us that the Kohen Gadol is always in sakana because the people in the Ir Miklat are going to daven that he should die soon. They're stuck in the Ir Miklat. The only way they can get back to their families and get back to their life and be safe and secure again and return to their previous lives is when the Kohen Gadol dies. So all these people, if there are a lot of them, are davening for the death of the Kohen Gadol, possibly, and he's in a situation of sakana. And as the Mishnah over there continues, lefikach, therefore, imosehen shel kohanim, the mothers of the Kohen Gadol, Misafkos lohem, they used to supply for them, meaning the accidental murderers who escaped to the Are Miklat, they used to supply for them michya, food, upsus, and clothing, kedei sheyispalalu al b'neihem, in order that they should daven for a long life for their sons, for the Kohen Gadol, shelo yamusu, that they shouldn't die. So the Gemara tells us that all of the extraordinary lengths that the mothers of the Kohanim Gedolim used to go to in order to appease the accidental murderers and to make them feel comfortable, so that they wouldn't be so anxious to get out and leave the Ir Miklat, that they would daven for the death of the Kohen Gadol. This way, they would feel the appreciation for what the mothers of the Kohen Gadol was doing for them, and they would daven for his long life and his health, as opposed to davening for his early demise. And this is what we saw according to that one language in the Zohar. Remember, the Zera Shimshon showed us that there was a little debate, two different opinions in the Zohar, but according to that one language in the Zohar, we've seen that a person is responsible, and in the case of what the Zohar was referring to, we saw that a person is responsible, Noach is responsible if he didn't daven for the people of his generation to save them. And because of this reasoning, the people in Noach's generation replied to him, if a flood comes, lo osya will not come, ella al besa dehahu gavra, except on the household of that man, again, meaning Noach. So the Zera Shimshon has answered his original question and explained to us what was meant by the Medrash Rabbah when the people responded to Noach and said, we're fine, you're the guy who's in trouble. Why is he in trouble? So the Zera Shimshon explained, because he didn't daven for the people appropriately. And we've seen now, the Zera Shimshon has brought for us several examples that clearly demonstrate how important it is for people, especially righteous people who have the merit, to daven for the congregation when the congregation is suffering or when the congregation is threatened by a punishment from Hashem. Next paragraph. Aval adayin kosher, but we still have a question. Lama be'emes lo hispalel Noach al b'nei Doro. Why, in truth, did Noach not daven for the people of his generation? Everything the Zera Shimshon taught us until now, in terms of answering his question, the question on the Medrash Rabbah, and trying to understand what the people of his Noach generation said to him, was based on this idea that Noach didn't daven for them. Great, we answered the question. It's fantastic. We're all good. Zera Shimshon says, no, we're not all good. Why did Noach not daven for the people of his generation? And even if you say, as the opinion in the Zohar said, that Noach didn't have zchus avos, he didn't have the merit of his forefathers to rely on, and he didn't have people to teach him exactly what he should do in this kind of situation. Even if that's true, litlos bo, he didn't have zchus avos to depend his prayers on. Ze'eno tiretz maspik. This is not a sufficient answer. That's not a sufficient answer to explain why he didn't daven for the people of his generation. Shesof hayulo lehispalel stam. He should have davened regular prayers. In other words, there's no restriction that says a person can only daven to Hashem if he or she has chusavos, and if he or she knows the secret words of Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Obviously, Noach couldn't say that. But the point is, you don't have to have zchus avos and know certain special formulas to daven to Hashem. Just daven stam. Noach should have davened plainly and simply to the best of his ability to save the people of his generation. V'im lo tiyeh tfiloso mikubeles, and if in the end his prayers were not accepted, az lo hayu lo shum chet. At least then Noach would not be. There would be no taina, no claim against Noach that he had sinned by not davening for the people, because he would have davened for the people. Masha'ein kein ata shelo hispalel, which is not the case. We have no defense of Noach if he didn't daven for the people at all. What can we say? What are the mitigating circumstances? He should have davened for the people, and apparently he didn't. Uchtamrinun bebrachos, as the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos, the Omar le Yishayahu lechizkiyahu. Yishayahu, the Hanavi, according to the Gemara in Brachos, comes to Chizkiyahu, the king, and says to him, get your affairs in order because you're about to die. Now, Chizkiyahu was a righteous king. And nonetheless, Yeshayahu said, that's it. You're about to die. Hashem's going to punish you. So Chizkiyahu said to Yeshayahu, according to the Gemara, what did I do? What do you mean I'm going to die? What is Hashem punishing me for? And Yeshayahu answered, because you did not get married and you didn't have children. You weren't Mekayim mitzvah of Pru or Vu, and you didn't bring children into the world. So Chizkiyahu answered, I didn't do that because I saw through Ruach HaKodesh that the children I would bring into the world would be destined to be terrible Rishoyim who would do tremendous damage as leaders, as kings of the Jewish people. So I chose not to have children. I wanted to spare Bnei Yisrael. I wanted to spare Klal Yisrael from bringing these evil children into the world who would do horrible things. So Yeshayahu answered him, and now the Zera Shimshon continues with the words in the Gemara. The Amar la Yeshayahu lechizkiyahu. So Yeshayahu responded to Chizkiyahu when he made that point about why he didn't get married and have children. What you are commanded to do, you have to do. And what Hashem chooses to do, le'ovad, he will do. And what that meant, what Yeshayahu was saying to Chizkiyahu was, it's not up to you, Chizkiyahu, to decide what the outcome or things are going to be in the future. Your job is to do the mitzvos, to fulfill Hashem's commandments. So you're about to die because you chose not to fulfill the commandments. You should not have concerned yourself with whether your children would be righteous or wicked and what would come in the future from their leadership as kings. No, you should have concerned yourself with one simple thing. You have a mitzvah to marry and bring children into the world, and that's what you have to do. So just to tie up that Gemara, the Gemara says that Chizkiyahu took this lesson to heart, and he turned his face to the wall from his sickbed, and he began to daven with tremendous sincerity and profound humility and passion to Hashem, and ultimately his tefillos were answered, and he was able to survive, and he was able to, in fact, marry and bring children into the world. And unfortunately, his fears about those children turned out to be accurate, and they did bring tremendous problems and suffering to Bnei Yisrael. But that was the message Yeshayahu gave him. So we're going to stop here. The Zera Shimshon goes on to discuss other things, but we're going to stop here. And I just want to pause to not recap as much as to say that there's a takeaway here that's so incredibly important. And it's what we saw all along, that all of us, each and every one of us, have a responsibility to do everything we can to help others and to never to fall into that very human and natural way of feeling, which is, hey, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Let me make sure to take care of myself and my family because that's my priority. Yes, that can be your priority, but it can't be the only thing that we do. We have to help others as much as we can, and we can never forget the koach hatfilah, the power of davening to daven for others when they are in need, and especially when the tzibor, when the whole congregation, when the people are threatened with some kind of suffering or punishment, chas v'shalom, we have to do everything we can to daven for them and to save them. Yashar koach to everyone for joining the learning tonight, and we look forward to Mirz Hashem, God willing, to learning again, hopefully on Sunday night, Be'ezus Hashem, with our next Parsha Zera Shimshon lesson.